Well, folks, this is it. The mid-season finale. The mid-season finale of Zatima season 3, and it didn't do it for me. Look, I know it's not been easy to go through my reviews this season. I'm rather disappointed. And look, hey, things could turn around in the back half of the season. It definitely could, but from what we've seen so far, minus the sneak peek leaked episode, I'm not really impressed with the season like I hoped I would. I don't, and it's not simply because the show was gone for over a year. It's just that this show has fallen into a lot of the same tropes of other Tyler Perry shows as opposed to standing out on its own. But um, definitely didn't hit as hard as episode 9. I'm giving this episode a 6 out of 10. So again, this is season 3, episode 10, entitled Twin Flames. And I do believe that DeVal said on a radio show that the show is supposed to come back prior to the end of the year. So, in a month or two, well, not even 2 months, because tomorrow is November 1st, but in several weeks, the show should apparently come back. But honestly, I would be cool if we didn't get the back half until January or something. But before going further in the review, please take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And hit the bell icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Okay, so first of all, Zach is beating up his brother. We're picking up where we left off. Jeremiah is unable to fight back. Zach, this isn't even a fight. It's just a beatdown. Just a plain old beatdown. And you got a couple of bystanders in the background recording the fight the beating on their phone. Nate and Tony try to grab, Zach off of Jeremiah. They end up getting flipped and, thrown back. Connie literally jumps on Zach's back like a wrestler, doing, trying to do like a body slam after they jump off of the ropes, and she ends up getting flipped over Zach's head. And it's mentioned a couple of times later in the episode, but Zach, it's almost like he completely blacked out. Like, he's seen Zach get upset at Jeremiah before they get into it and then they make up, but this time was different. It was like, because Tony even points out, nah, man, this seems like it wasn't just about Fatima. It's almost like basically any sort of resentment and, animosity that's been bottled up. He finally released it. But in any case, it gets to the point where Jeremiah looks like he's trying to crawl away, but Zach knocks him over again. I think he got like a big, a thick tree branch or something. Like he was about to finish the job. And thankfully, the guys pin him to the ground until he finally is able to calm down. And they help him up. And Tony opts to take Zach home, whereas Nate and Connie take Jeremiah to the hospital. So Jeremiah is shown to still be alive. He's bloody and battered, but he is alive. So Fatima comes over to Angela's and apologizes for, what went down in the last episode. Basically, Fatima has this thing where sometimes she just wants to be heard as opposed to be given advice. But I can understand that. I mean, personally, being single, I'm a person that's kind of like I guess you could consider me like a fixer in terms of being the kind of person, like, if somebody comes to me and talks about a problem, I would like to provide some insight if I can. But I do understand that sometimes, and people operate differently. Some people want to vent to be heard as opposed to be, either lectured to or receive any sort of solution. It is what it is. But essentially, she does want Angela to find the one as opposed to just a random one every single night. And from there, they discuss the situation with Zach's anger and whatnot. And I mean, to be honest, drama comes with any relationship, but I feel like there needs to be a healthy balance between loving someone and knowing the limits of what you're willing to put up with. Because I think it's safe to, I think even Crystal has said herself in a number of interviews, like, in Fatima's position, she would have dumped Zach a long time ago. So I mean, just because you love someone doesn't mean you need to put up with constant disrespect and BS. That's just me. Turns out she has a random dude, Big D, upstairs, and she kicks him out in order for Fatima to feel comfortable spending the night at her place for the night. So we go over to Deja talking to Zach and Tony as they arrive back to the house. And Deja's whole stick this episode is standing outside on the sidewalk or driveway waiting for the cops to show up. She's trying to tell Zach about what occurred earlier that night when Fatima burst into a birthday party. He doesn't really care. What happened to your hand? Mind your business, Deja. Hey, you are my business. You are my neighbor. Mm-hmm. So, in any case, they do a trick move in order to get past Deja and go back into the house. And while Tony's patching up Zach, is like I said before, he points out the fact that, man, it's like you blacked out and, what you got into with Jeremiah wasn't just about Fatima. And it's like, no, it wasn't just about Fatima. This Negro shot at me. But Tony, again, just wants to talk about new perspective. It's like, you look at how you both came up from the same place and where you are at in life now, with you having way more to lose than Jeremiah. Did you ever stop to think what occurred down the line or, way back in the day that led to him eventually getting on drugs in the first place? And Zach is like, hey, we all have choices and opportunities presented in front of us. Just like our mom, he opted to pick, door number 1 or whichever door had drugs behind it. And hey, Zach isn't trying to hear all that. So Tony, ends up leaving, and right as he's about to call Fatima, because I think, it's like, hey, do you want to talk to Fatima? No, Zach feels like it's a routine. It's like, hey, I went off and I beat the crap out of Jeremiah. I blew off some steam. Oh, Fatima's in her feelings. She'll calm down. She'll come back. No need to talk to her just now. She'll eventually come around. So Deja is still trying to start some mess outside, but, Tony does warn. It's like, hey, Fatima could be back any minute now. You might want to be out inside instead of outside. Oh, no. The cops are coming. They're going to arrest her, put her in some handcuffs. So, Tony calls Fatima, doesn't tell anything about the Jeremiah beatdown. And, she's going to be staying with Angela and not to tell Zach. Is like, look, I'll just come back when I'm ready to talk to him. So it's funny because as soon as Tony gets off the phone, like, dang, she has a temper problem too. I'm like, man, you don't know the half of it. So over at the hospital, Connie and Nate are waiting for any sort of updates on Jeremiah. And after what went down, Connie makes a point to say, look, I'm not trying to break up any more fights anymore. I broke a nail, missing a couple of braids, got a bald spot. It was crazy. It's like, stop looking at him. Oh, my bad. But they talk about, again, the fact that Zach blacked out during the beatdown. And Nate is optimistic about everything turning out fine. And Connie's more realistic in the sense of, I don't know, this is a side of Zach we never seen before. Jeremiah got beat down pretty bad. It's just, I don't know. And it's like, we got to be there for him. It's like, well, hey, I was the one that said tell him from the beginning. And I mean, I don't disagree with Nate on that. And then it's like, yeah, and Fatima too. No, what about Fatima? Look, like her or not, she's in love with Zach. Zach's in love with her. So as far as I'm concerned, she's a part of the circle in terms of those who care about Zach and want the best for him. And speaking of people in the circle and the relationships they're in, she calls out this messiness of Nate messing around with Belinda. It's like, she's not the kind of woman to date. She's the kind of woman to F somebody. And talks about Lori and the kids and basically tells Nate to grow up. And in the midst of Nate having somewhat of an epiphany, Code Blue is announced an emergency. And look, here's the thing though. Nate says it looks like they're going into Jeremiah's room, but he could be wrong. He could be wrong. Now, we go over to the next day. It's morning. Turns out Angela took what Fatima said to heart the night before and invited Bryce over for breakfast. And I'm like, wait, are they trying to rekindle something here? But actually, Angela is trying to get insight from Bryce about, some of the things Fatima pointed out. Like, do you think I'm like afraid of commitment or, quick to push people away? And Bryce starts rattling down a list before he barely took 2 bites of the plate. And as they're about to start talking, Fatima comes down and she's, Yeah, she said she didn't have any clothes for work. Basically, I'm just going to spend the night, Angela, and in the morning I'll go back home and get ready for work and go about my business. And Fatima learns from Bryce that he actually, set up something with Dr. Reed, talks to Zach because, I heard everything, I know everything. And, Fatima was just hopeful that the conversation, if they had it last night, went well. So before Angela goes to work herself, she basically wants to talk more to Bryce about, some of her own red flags and, just kind of get down to the bottom of, who she is and why. Makes me wonder why they haven't scheduled appointments with Dr. Reed themselves. Just saying. Wow. Dang. Okay. My bad. I'm almost done here. So we get to the final scene. Fatima gets home, doesn't pay Deja any mind. And, she calls the cops, and there's a bit of funny banter between her and Fatima. But after she gets inside, Fatima sees the bloody towel and gauze on the table and puts two and two together. She calls Tony. Tony doesn't tell her squat. She hangs up on him. Zach comes downstairs. Fatima confronts him about his hand. He doesn't want to talk about it. And that's pretty much it. And before anything else can happen, there's a knock on the door. Who is it? The police. Whoa. Deja, as soon as the door is open, Deja's holding up the bird. And it turns out rather than Fatima, they're there for Zach for the murder of his brother. And that's how we end the season, or at least the mid-season, before the show comes back from its break. I don't know. This episode really didn't do it for me. Yeah, I hate to give the mid-season a 6, but I just hope and pray that the back half of the season brings it. But even if it does, this whole season would suffer due to the first half. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on Twin Flames. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.